Thank you so much, Jenna, and thank you all for joining us today for Read Live 1 Minute Reader Live Basics. So this is one of our 4 programs under the Read Live platform. It's my pleasure to be with you today. My name is Sarah Jane Schonauer, and I am thrilled that you are joining us for this webinar. So let's get started. As Jenna mentioned, you do have materials, you have a handout, and that came in your reminder email, but you can also access it in the chat. There's a link in the chat for you, so feel free to hop on and pull up those materials so that you can follow along as we go through the presentation. So for 1 Minute Reader Live Basics, this is one of 4 programs within the Read Live platform. Today, we're going to talk about why it works, placing students, how it works, and meeting various needs. The nice thing about 1 Minute Reader Live is that it is an independent program for students so that they can get lots of extra practice reading, but with the support that they need. So under the Read Live umbrella, we have the 4 programs: Read Naturally Live, Word Warm-Ups Live, 1 Minute Reader Live, and Read Naturally Live Espanol. Each of them has a focus area and areas of additional support. So for Read Naturally Live, we have a focus on fluency and phonics. That's our flagship program that we've had for many, many years and got us started and is going strong. Additional support is provided for vocabulary, spelling, and comprehension. For Word Warm-Ups Live, we have a focus on phonics. There are 3 levels, and it goes from 1-syllable words to 2-syllable words to multisyllabic words. So this is a really nice phonics program, and it also supports fluency, spelling, and phonemic awareness. We're focused today on 1 Minute Reader Live, which is a focus on fluency with support for vocabulary and comprehension. Again, the only fully independent program. And then Read Naturally Live Espanol is the Read Naturally Live program translated into Spanish. So fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension are covered in that program. So these are intervention programs: Read Naturally Live, Word Warm-Ups Live, and Read Naturally Live Espanol. And then 1 Minute Reader Live, as I said, is that independent program where students can practice reading. All 4 programs have different information that we want to share with you about their purpose, about their skills that they cover, about the phonics series, whether it's included, English language learners, and teacher being required. So this is in your handout for you to refer to if you would like to focus on one particular program and learn more about it. We have great information here for you, some of which I've reviewed on the previous slide, but we're going to zoom in today and we're really going to focus on 1 Minute Reader Live. That's why you're here. So we hope that students can have that structured independent reading practice, and it's available for any student who has a license in Read Live. So this is something that works well for general education students or for extra practice for students who are working in some of our intervention programs, which is really exciting. Teachers love having the 1 Minute Reader Live program available while they're doing assessments, while they're doing screening for their students. It gives a meaningful academic activity that the students can do while the teacher is working on those important assessments and screenings. So let's take a look at Read Naturally Live compared to 1 Minute Reader Live. There are some similarities and there are some differences. So you may be familiar, some of you may be familiar with Read Naturally Live, and that's for any student needing reading intervention. So it could be for students receiving Tier 2 services or Tier 3 services in terms of intervention. These could be students who are receiving Title I services, special education services. It's really tailored and individualized for those specific learning needs. For 1 Minute Reader Live, this can be any student. It can be any student in the general education classroom. It can be any student in the school, whether they are served through the core program or they need additional help. This is a way that they can read independently with some support and making it more meaningful for the student. If we take a look at the content here, we see that there are levels 1 through 8 for Read Naturally Live, so a total of 29 levels. And the series that are included are sequenced, phonics, idioms, and there are some Spanish translations of the stories. And then there's Read Naturally Live Espanol as well. For 1 Minute Reader Live, we're talking about levels E through 5. E means early first grade, and then it goes through mid 5th grade. So there's 6 total levels, and the stories are grouped by a theme or topic. If you're familiar with our stories, you won't be surprised that they are nonfiction, focusing on science and social studies, and the students really enjoy our stories. They're very interesting. So students work mostly independently in Read Naturally Live. There is some teacher involvement for some of the steps. The teacher is often there for the cold read and is always there for the pass step where they do a hot timing with the student, and they can actively supervise and dip in on any step, but the students can handle many of the steps by themselves. For 1 Minute Reader, it is totally independent. So students can log in if they have access to 1 Minute Reader Live, they can log in right away and they can get started without the teacher being involved. And I'll show you later through a demonstration that the teacher can go in and change some story options. They can make it differentiated for the student in 1 Minute Reader Live. But if the teacher only gives the student access, that's good enough to get the student in the program and get them working right away. So the onboarding is very easy. In terms of reports, we truly believe in monitoring progress, whether it's in Read Naturally Live or 1 Minute Reader Live. So the reports for monitoring progress in Read Naturally Live include fluency, comprehension, phonics. And because the teacher is often there for the cold timing step and always there for the pass, we know that those fluency scores are accurate because the teacher has weighed in on those scores. The comprehension is graded by the computer program, and then the phonics piece, we can capture that data through the computer program as well. For 1 Minute Reader Live, because students are working independently, just like if they pulled a book off the shelf and started reading, they would think, oh, I'm reading along, I'm doing okay. And maybe they're making a couple of mistakes that they don't realize, but it's still a valuable activity for them to do silent sustained reading. What happens in 1 Minute Reader Live is we do have the student entering in their score, clicking and capturing that score for their fluency, for their words per minute. And so is that a number that is absolutely 100% accurate? No. Is it valuable? Yes, because it tells us a starting point. And then over time, we can look at reports and see how the student is doing. Now, the comprehension questions are graded by the computer program. So we know that those scores can be looked at with a different lens from the actual cold and hot timings. There is an open-ended comprehension question, so students do have an answer that they can compare and judge, but I just want you to know that there are some pieces of this where the student is entering the information. So we want to take that and look at that with a critical eye. As we go through, we've talked a little bit about the overview of 1 Minute Reader Live, but now we're going to talk about why it works. And so we know that in schools, we need to be using the research-based programs that are available. We have this program as a structured independent reading practice for the developing readers of all ages, and the teacher is not directly involved, although they can monitor progress. The highly effective instruction the student is benefited from the Read Naturally strategy, which we'll go over in a minute. This has been a hallmark of all of our programs. So the strategy really supports the student. And then they get improvement in fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension by using 1 Minute Reader Live. So the strategies we were talking about include teacher modeling. That's where the student, if they did a cold read and they made some mistakes and they weren't even sure they made those mistakes, which does happen, when they have the teacher model, they have that audio support in the story where they read along with the narrator and they follow along and they whisper read because it's important for the students to be actively involved. That's where they learn the words in the story. That's what they learn what the story is about. So they might read along 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 times and get to know that story really well. That's that scaffolded support of teacher modeling. For repeated reading, then they get to read alone and practice by themselves. And because they've practiced with the narrator, they're reading pretty accurately when they're reading alone. And so they have practice scores that you can see in these little bubbles, and they get excited that their scores are going up over time. For progress monitoring, that's kind of like if you have a child or even a spouse that's playing video games, you know that trying to get to the next level and improving your score is important. That's built in here as well. So we have graphs that show progress over time, and we have detailed information about the comprehension questions and which questions the students answered correctly the first time. So that progress monitoring, again, is something that we know is really important. As we look at the levels of 1 Minute Reader Live, we go from E to 5. So E is early first grade reading level, and you can see a little description here on the right about those particular stories and how what they're consisted of. And then we have mid first grade, mid second grade, mid third grade, mid fourth grade, and mid fifth grade. So all of those levels will be available to the students by default, but if you want to, you can limit their access to the different levels, and I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. In 1 Minute Reader Live, there are 8 books per level, so you can see each book represented here on the different tiles, and the student has completed this book that has a star next to it. Within each book, there are 5 nonfiction stories, so this student has already read A Helpful Killer and has several more stories to read before the crossword puzzle is unlocked. And then there's an interactive vocabulary component where the blue words can be clicked on and the student can hear a definition, a sentence, and often see a picture. And then there's a quick quiz, which is mainly multiple choice. The student can show the story to look for the answer, and there is an open-ended question as well. These quiz questions answer a joke jumble, so by the end of the book, the student gets the answer to why was the bug so messy? And then I mentioned the short answer that the student evaluates. Once they get to the evaluation stage, there's a box that shows potential answers that would be correct, and the student can say yes or no, whether they think that they got that question correct. And the joke jumble, as we said, if you're wondering why was the bug so messy, because he was a litter bug. So those are the types of jokes you'll see in the joke jumbles. And then the crossword puzzles, will go into that a little bit later. I'll show you some of the details there. Another great way to build vocabulary. And then did you know, fun facts from the stories, because students learn a lot in these stories and then they get excited about sharing that information with other people. So this is fun. There are points that are built in. The students get the most points for their comprehension questions, so that's pretty cool, but they do get points for all the activities, and they build those up within each story and within each book. So what are the benefits of 1 Minute Reader Live? Well, again, readers of all ages who need that structured independent reading. Maybe you have some students that during silent sustained reading, they pick up a book. It might be too challenging for them, and maybe they pretend to read. This is something that they can actually read, and they're really motivated and interested in the topic, and they feel supported by the Read Naturally strategy. This could also be not just for someone who's struggling, but also if a student needs a higher reading material. Maybe they're doing really well in reading and they're a third grader, but they can handle fourth or fifth grade material. You could have them log into 1 Minute Reader Live, and you could show them those different levels, and they could read things that are closer to their level compared to the grade that they're in. Students also can work in Read Naturally Live and have extra reading practice at home for homework, or at school when they have, silent sustained reading, or they have a break, or they have 10 minutes before the next activity. So it's a nice way to productively use the students' time and get them reading more. Because this is a more independent program, there is a placement option, and I'll show you how that works, but it's not required. So from day one, if students have a license to read live and access to 1 Minute Reader Live, they can jump right in and they can navigate and make their choices. So it is a quick and easy way to get into the program. You could do placement anytime. If you don't do it at the beginning, you can do it anytime during the year. Students work more independently than our other programs. So Read Naturally Live, Word Warm-Ups Live, Read Naturally Live Espanol has more teacher involvement, but this way students can do the program on their own in 1 Minute Reader Live. The program does suggest content to a student, but doesn't restrict the story. So the story, as long as you've made all levels available, the students can navigate to any level in any book and any story. If you restrict the levels, then of course they would only have the levels that you have made available for them. And I'll show you how to do that. So let's talk a little bit about that optional placement. If we look at the screen, we see that when the student logs in for the first time, they're going to get a welcome message and they're going to be asked, would you like to take a placement test to help you select a level? And the student can say yes or no. The teacher can prompt the student and let them know what their expectations are. But if the student is logging in independently, they do have the option to skip the placement test. If they do, then they're started at the default level E, but they can move freely between the levels, books and stories. And then later they could do the test if you wanted them to, or if they wanted to. If they say yes, then there's an option for student-led or teacher-led placement. Whatever you choose, the student will do the same thing. They'll select a level, or the teacher can select the level, do a 1 minute timing, and the computer will say, yes, that's a good fit, or no, I'd like you to try a different level until they do find a good fit. So this is, again, very easy to navigate and optional, but you can revisit it at any time. So for placement, again, we see that we have the option to do it. Let's say we said, yes, we do want to do placement. Then that select a level step that I talked about is here. So this level is a 2. So that would be mid-second. And then the student would start a timing and go through and click on any words that were difficult for the student. They could turn the reading guide on or off during that placement. And then at the end, when they click at the word that is where they finish, then they get their timing results. And if you're used to Read Naturally Live, you know, we say words correct per minute. If a student is timing themselves here and misses some of the errors that they made, we don't have that information if the teacher is not involved. So we say words correct per minute for Read Naturally Live and words per minute for 1 Minute Reader Live. So this student scored 34, which actually is in the placement range. And so the computer program says this seems like a good fit, that level 2 would work. In your handout, you have at the back a takeaway, just a little checklist. So as you're going through this and getting students ready for 1 Minute Reader Live, you have these placement directions for you. Now we're at the third part of our agenda today, which is how it works. And so if we take a look here, we know what those levels are. Just a reminder that it goes all the way from early 1st grade to middle 5th grade. And here are the steps of 1 Minute Reader Live. First, the student selects a story. They really like being able to make the choice because often they don't get to choose what they do in school. So it's fun and exciting for them to choose. Then they do a cold read where they get that baseline score for the story. So this is once they're in a level and they've chosen a book and they've chosen a story. Once they do that cold read, the program prompts them to read along. And so they would read along with the narrator and read the whole story. And they could do that a couple of times. You can set the number of read-alongs, and I'll show you how to do that in the demo. The read alone step is when they're practicing. So that repeated reading comes in where they get to read alone a bunch of times and improve their score on their words per minute. And then when they feel ready, they move on to the quick quiz and the short answer. These steps are on a steps poster that we have on our website, but you have a black and white copy of it in your packet. If you want to print it in color, that certainly is an option. It takes you through all the steps. Sometimes teachers like to share this with the students to keep them on task. And then when a book is completed, you see a summary, so does the student, and the did you know facts and the crossword open up. And so now we're going to talk about getting started. We've heard a lot about the program and all of its benefits, but what happens when a staff member logs in, what happens when a student logs in. So for students, we want to make sure they have access to Read Live. So they need a Read Live license, and then you need to put your students in there. So you have a certain number of licenses, you add your students, and then if you want to do placement, you can. There's 3 options. You can skip it, do a student-led or teacher-led. And then licensing the students, meaning they have access to the platform, and then giving them access to 1 Minute Reader Live. And we'll show you how to do that too. And teaching the students how to do the steps so that they can, meet your expectations. So what we'll do now is we'll hop out of the PowerPoint and navigate over to the actual teacher module. So this is the Read Live login screen. And as you can see, there's a staff member login and there's a student login. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually log in as a staff member to show you some of the features there. And then I'll log in as a student and walk through a story with you so you can see how that works. So here's the staff member module. If I'm a staff member, I need to have an account ID, I need to have a user ID, and I need to have my password. I put all of that in and I click login. And then I can learn how to get started and go to some resources. But for today, we're just going to start working. We're going to go to the home page. Here on the Read Live homepage, we have many, many tiles, lots of great ways that we can interact with the back end of the program, check on our students, see who's in there, see who we need to add, those kinds of things. So definitely explore these. The bullet points underneath show you what you can do in that tile. And since our focus today is 1 Minute Reader Live, I'm going to navigate there. And as you can see, I have a list of students here. So one of the things I can tell from my 1 Minute Reader Live student screen is I can see who has access. So if you look at the top here, we have story options, which I'll show you. We have printing stories. We have adding OMR access or removing OMR access. So if I look over here, I have the student's name, some information about the student, like their grade and their school and their homeroom and their lead teacher. But as I navigate here, I see OMR access. And if I click on it, it will filter and show me who has it, who doesn't have it. So I see that I have 2 students that do not have OMR access. So I can click on the top one, press Shift and click on the bottom one. And then I can say add OMR access. And then it will ask me, am I sure that I want to do that? And I am. So I'm going to say yes. And so now all of these students have OMR access, but there may be more students in the actual system than you see on this screen. So let me go back to the Read Live home screen and go to student administration. And then I'm going to go to student setup, because there may be students that are not licensed yet. So there are 2 components. There's a license that gives them, the way to get into Read Live. And then there's the access to the 4 programs in Read Live. So I see a test student 3 that wasn't on my OMR list. And the reason is because they're not licensed. So if I want to give test 3 student a license, then I can go into the student's information, and all their information is here, but I can see that a license is available, but it has not been assigned yet. So now I will click yes, that I want to license the student. And that means now that I can select which programs I want them to have access to. What happened was, if you noticed, when they had no access, nothing was checked except Read Naturally Live, because we want students to come in and have access to something. But if I come in this way and I say yes, then it becomes blue. See? So they have access now to Read Naturally Live and 1 Minute Reader Live. I could add Word Warm-Ups Live and Read Naturally Espanol. It can be any combination of programs that you give the students access to. Once you license a student, the other step is to assign a lead teacher. So now this student, test student 3, has access to all 4 programs. And I definitely want to save and close before I go back. So now all of my students are licensed, and then some of my students have OMR access. So those are really easy ways to navigate what's going on and to make sure that we have everybody where they need to be. So I mentioned to you that we wanted to possibly look at some story options for students. And so I can either navigate to that 1-minute reader live tile through that homepage, or I can do it through this drop-down menu. So if I go here, and for instance, if I go to a student, Marcy, do you see how I have this button here? I have change story options for selected. So if I go and see Marcy, then I see how many read-alongs are required. I see how many read-alongs are required and what levels are available. So for the read-along, I can go up to 3. So for now, because I'm going to do a demo with her, I'm going to put it at 0. But the default, if I click Restore Defaults, the default is 1 read-along, where they read with the narrator and the audio support, and 2 practices. But you can change both of those. I'm going to change this one to 0 for our demo. And the one for the read-along can be anywhere from 1 to 5. So I'm going to put it at 1 for our demo. The other nice thing is that you can go through and you can see, oh, we have some levels here. And Marcy is a younger student, so I can turn off some of the higher levels if I want to. But since she's our demo student, I will go ahead and leave those open. All right, so as we go back and navigate out of the teacher module, we're going to navigate out and go back to the student module. Jenna, do I need to pause for any questions at this time?
There is just one question about where to see usernames and passwords for students, and I was just going to type in there a link to the student passwords report.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Jenna.
Yep, I'll link that in there. Yep.
Okay, I appreciate that. All right, thanks for the great questions, everybody. If we don't answer them in real time, we will definitely get back to you via email with any answers to your questions. Okay, so the student module, we're going to log into that now. I'm going to log in as Marcy. And so I can just select her name, enter her password, and click login. All right, so Marcy Gasper is my student here, and Marcy has access to 2 programs within Read Live, Read Naturally Live and 1-Minute Reader Live. Because our focus today is 1-Minute Reader Live, we'll go ahead and click there.
Please select a book.
All right, so we have the option for Marcy to select any of these books. When she hovers over them, she will see the stories that are included. And then she also has the option to move to different levels, as you can see down at the bottom. But it looks like right now that Marcy is interested in cool creatures. So we do have the story options here and placement. So those are available. I'll come back to those at the end, but I wanted to point them out that they show up on the select a book screen, because you'll see this top line change as we go into the stories. This button is a reset button. If you wanted to reset all of the stories, you would lose all of the data, but you could reset them. And then if you want to see a report about how the student is doing in this particular level, you can hover over the graphs and you can see their scores. So, and there's also comprehension question information here. You can print this as well. So that's a nice way to see.
Please select a book.
See how the student is doing in the level. So as we go in,
please select a story.
Cool Creatures as Marcy. Marcy has already finished 4 stories in this particular book, and they can be reset, or we can see the data from those stories as well. We have one more story before the crossword puzzle is revealed. So that story is We Need Bees.
Click Start Timing and begin reading. Click on the words you don't know to hear them read to you. Click Finished if you finish reading before the bell sounds.
So I'll start the timing and then just kind of orient you to the screen here. We have the student's name. We have a navigation tool here that she can, when she's not in the middle of a cold timing, she can navigate back to Read Naturally Live if she would like to, or if her teacher would like her to. We have a select a story area, as well as an indicator of the level and book that she's in. The student can log out if this is available, if she's not in the middle of a timing, and it will remember where she was and bring her back there the next time. The 6 steps we went over before are listed here, and the points are here. So you'll see these points go up and you'll hear an auditory sound when they do. Before the student clicks the timer, they can turn on or off the reading guide that moves down. And as the narrator said, they could click on any word to hear it read to them. This particular story does have 2 pages. So students, if they get that far, they will.
Click on the last word you read when the bell sounded.
If they get that far, they can navigate to that second page.
Click Next to continue.
All right, we'll keep going. Her cold score was 56 words per minute.
Look at how many words per minute you read.
One thing you might notice if your information is all about Read Naturally Live so far, we don't have a goal here. So we don't want kids to get stuck in this program because it is independent. So we let them go ahead and do their cold time, and then their very last practice is their hot timing. So you don't see a goal indicator here, and that's because it's the independent program.
Click Start Read Along to read along, or click Next to continue.
As you can see here, there are vocabulary words in blue that students can click on and hear a definition. And when they start the read along, they're going to read along with the narrator.
Do you like honey? If you do, you should like bees.
Click Start Read Along to read along again.
Now I canceled that read along because we're doing a demo, but what the students would do is they would read the whole story with the narrator at least once. It'll depend how many times you have indicated they need to do it, but when they complete a read along, they will get a gold star for that.
Click Start Timing and begin reading. Click Finished if you finish the story before the bell sounds.
All right, so this is the read alone when they don't have the narrator reading with them and they're reading it themselves, but they've had that audio support and they've learned a lot about this story through that supported reading. We do have the cold score here, and then each time the student practices for a minute, their scores appear in these bubbles. Now, they may only have one required read alone, but they have the choice to read more than that. So I'm not going to stop them. If they want to read along 4 more times, that's fine with me. I'd like them to read as much as they can. A few other things to point out is that they can always access the directions for the screen. Well, not when a timing's going on, but when these are enabled, they can access the directions in English and in Spanish. They can navigate back. They can see the requirements for the page, and of course, they can move forward. So as this timing goes, we have a timer icon so that we know that the timing is taking place. In a few minutes, we will
Click on the last word you read when the bell sounded.
All right, so we've read and practiced.
Click Start Timing to see if you can improve your score. Or click Next to save this as your hot timing and continue.
So since I have this set for a demo, we're going to just keep moving on, even though your students might do more practices.
Look at how many words per minute you read.
All right, the student keeps earning points and they see their cold timing compared to their hot timing, which of course they get very excited about.
Click the best answer for each quiz question. As you answer questions correctly, their letters will fill in the blanks in the joke jumble. Click Show Story to see the story again.
Okay, so we can see the question here. We see the joke jumble. The students get some cues about what they've done, whether they've done it correctly, whether they've made an error and need to correct it, but they can show the story by toggling back and forth. So we have what is most of We Need Bees about. And so we're looking for the main idea for We Need Bees. And by hearing that sound and seeing the letter move over, the student knows that they got that correct. What do bees want from flowers? Again, they get that indicator. What does honey mean in the story? Let me get this one wrong. So it could be a name for a sweet person, but not in this story. So let's try next. How do bees help flowers make fruit? We're getting close to this answer for this joke jumble. And now I'm revisited back to the question that I got wrong. So we need to see if we can correct that. Okay, so I get a cheer. I have finished this story. I have finished this book. And now we know, why was a picnic a bad choice for the family party? There were hundreds of aunts, but no uncles. Haha.
Type your answer, then click Next.
Okay, so we're going to go in. We're going to do a test answer. I'm going to pretend that's correct for our demo.
Was your answer correct? Check your answer and click Yes or No. Then click Next.
So the student can compare it to the correct answer. I'm going to say yes for demo purposes.
Look at your results from this story. Click Next to continue.
So we can celebrate with Marcy how well she did on this story. We can see her points, her practice score, her quiz score, and her short answer, as well as her graph.
Look at your results from this book. Click Next to continue.
All right, so we can see again her graphs and her numbers on the graph if we hover. And comprehension, I may be wondering about her abilities with main idea and vocabulary based on the fact that she missed a couple of those questions during this level. And during this book, so I would probably start paying close attention to those particular comprehension pieces for Marcy.
Read these additional facts about the topics in this book. Then, click Next to continue.
Those are the fun facts.
You've completed this book. To read a story again, click its reset icon. To choose a new book, click Select a Book.
So let's say Marcy's not in the mood to do the crossword right now. She goes back to select a book.
Please select a book.
And then, as I mentioned before, on the select a book page, you could go into the story options. I would type in my user ID and password, and then I can go into the story options and change them for the student, or I could go into placement.
Select a level and then click Next to begin testing. Please select a book.
And so now we're going to hop back into the PowerPoint now that you've seen a student work through a story. And we'll just close out with a few more pieces of information about 1 Minute Reader Live. We mentioned the Did You Know screen, so you know that students have an opportunity to learn more about the subject at hand. And then the crossword puzzle becomes enabled after those stories are finished in the book. So just like our friend Marcy, she could access the crossword puzzle. We have the clues. And then we also, when we're working on a clue, we have a list of words to choose from. Any word that's grayed out has already been used. So as she progresses in the crossword puzzle, you'll see that fewer and fewer words become available, which helps give them a hint towards the answer. And then as we look to meeting various needs of our students, we might have students who are participating in more than one program. So in Read Naturally Live or Espanol, we do 30 minutes per session, 3 to 5 days a week. Word Warm-Ups Live could be a 10-minute warm-up or a 20 to 30-minute intervention, 3 to 5 days a week. But 1 Minute Reader Live can be used with all of your students. If you're teaching second grade and you have silent sustained reading and enough devices, all your students could log into 1 Minute Reader Live and have a structured independent reading activity. It can be homework, it can be summer reading, anywhere that there's an internet connection and a device, students can access this. And so we like it so students can be independent in their reading, they can have additional practice, they can do it as homework during the school year. You say, go home tonight, read 20 or 30 minutes. They can log in and do it right there in 1 Minute Reader Live. They can have extra practice over holiday breaks and structured practice over summer. So it's a year-round access. Some students work in both Read Naturally Live and 1 Minute Reader Live, and so they could use 1 Minute Reader Live in silent sustained reading or during the intervention block while they're waiting to be placed in Read Naturally Live. They can also work in it during those school breaks, as I mentioned. We do have reports, not only the story summary and book summary that you saw before, but we also, if you log into the staff member module and go to the reports tile, we also have 1 Minute Reader Live reports, including a students at a glance report. And that's a nice report because you can see what the student has done and their average scores for the first 3 stories and the most recent 3 stories. So if we drill down here, we see this student has completed 5 stories, and then we see their scores are going up over time and their comprehension is really solid. And so those are good indicators for us to see that they're doing well. And we can change those story options. So I went over this in real time in the demo, but we have the read along and the read alones, and it's either 1 or 2 for the default. And then but you can set it for different numbers that drop down in that menu. For the levels, we can turn on levels on or off, and so you can limit or expand what they have available. So we have more resources for you on our Read Live help page. So the link is at the bottom, not clickable for you right now, but it's readnaturally.com/read-live-help. And then when we zoom into the help resources specifically for 1 Minute Reader Live, you can see there's a lot of training and a lot of information. You can also just access this through our website. And if there are any questions, we may need to wrap up pretty soon, but you have my email here, you have our contact information for Read Naturally. If there's anything we can do to help you to make your school year go more smoothly, just let us know. Glad to be with you today. Thank you so much for your time and for everything that you do with your students.
Thanks, Sarah Jane. Just a reminder to everybody that we will be sending out follow-up emails with links to the webinar recording in about 24 hours. Please feel free to share that recording with your colleagues. Please also respond to the survey questions that will appear on your screen after the webinar so we can continue to improve the educational experience for all of you and for our future webinars. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.